The entire restaurant fell silent when the little girl's screams cut through the dinner rush. Stella Lombardi, 4 years old and drowning in grief she couldn't name, stood in the middle of the dining room and sobbed like her heart was shattering. Her father, tall, intimidating, the kind of man who made grown men step aside, crouched beside her, desperation cracking through his controlled facade. "Stella, please." Adrian Lombardi's voice was low, strained. "Tell me what you need." But she couldn't. She never could. Svetlana Kuznetsov watched from behind the counter, her arms aching from carrying heavy trays for 10 hours straight. She shouldn't get involved. The manager had warned her about the man in booth 7, the one whose presence made the staff nervous, whose reservations were never questioned. But Lana saw something else in that moment. She saw herself 2 years ago in Moscow, holding her infant son, while his father raged. She saw the helplessness in a powerful man's eyes as he failed to comfort his child. Before she could stop herself, she was walking toward them. Lana's hands still smelled like grease and cheap dish soap when her shift ended at midnight. She counted her tips in the staff bathroom. $43, barely enough for diapers and formula for Misha. Her 2-year-old son was asleep at their neighbor's apartment 3 floors up, probably curled around the threadbare stuffed bear that used to be hers. The morning had started like every other. Wake at 5, feed Misha, drop him with Mrs. Chen, who watched him for cash under the table. Take 2 buses to the restaurant in Brooklyn where she worked the breakfast and dinner shifts. Her English was good. Her mother had insisted on lessons, but her accent marked her as foreign, made getting legitimate work nearly impossible without proper papers. She was folding cloth napkins when the door chimed at 7 p.m. The energy in the restaurant shifted immediately. Adrian Lombardi walked in holding his daughter's hand. Lana had seen him twice before, always in the corner booth, always alone, except for the little girl who never smiled. Tonight, Stella wore a pink dress with white flowers, her dark curls pulled into pigtails. She was beautiful, but her eyes were haunted in a way no 4-year-olds should be. "Your usual table, Mr. Lombardi," the manager said quickly, his voice too bright. Adrian nodded. He was tall, maybe 6'3", with the kind of presence that made the room feel smaller. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his charcoal suit tailored to fit his broad shoulders. But it was his eyes that caught Lana's attention. Grey-blue, exhausted, ringed with shadows that spoke of sleepless nights. Stella dragged her feet, making soft, whimpering sounds. "Come on, baby," Adrian murmured, his voice surprisingly gentle. "We'll get your favorite. Mac and cheese, remember?" The little girl's face crumpled. "Don't want it." "What do you want, then?" He crouched to her level, patient despite the tension in his jaw. "Tell Daddy what you want." "Mama." The word came out as a broken whisper. "Want Mama." Something shattered behind Adrian's eyes. He closed them briefly, his throat working as he swallowed. When he opened them again, his expression was carefully blank. "I know, Stellina. I know." They made it to the booth. Adrian ordered. Pasta for himself, mac and cheese for Stella, despite her protest. But when the food arrived, the little girl just stared at it, tears sliding down her cheeks. "1 bite," Adrian coaxed. "Just try 1 bite, baby." Stella shook her head, and suddenly she was crying in earnest, great heaving sobs that shook her small frame. Adrian tried to soothe her, his large hands awkward as he patted her back, but nothing worked. Other diners were staring now. The manager was approaching with barely concealed panic. That's when Stella scrambled out of the booth and stood in the middle of the restaurant, wailing. Lana moved without thinking. She knelt in front of the little girl, not touching, just present. "Stella," she said softly, her Russian accent wrapping around the syllables. "Stella, look at me." The child's sobs hitched. Her red-rimmed eyes found Lana's face. "I know you're sad," Lana continued, her voice low and steady. "It's okay to be sad. Being sad is very heavy, yes? Like carrying big rock." Stella nodded, transfixed. "When I am sad," Lana said, "I take deep breath. Like this." She demonstrated, exaggerating the inhale and exhale. "Want to try with me?" The little girl mimicked her breath shuddering. "Good," Lana praised. "So good." Again. They breathed together 3 more times. Stella's crying faded to hiccups, then stopped altogether. "You know what I do when I am very, very sad?" Lana asked conspiratorially. Stella shook her head. "I think of 3 things that make me happy. My favorite things." "Can you think of 3 things?" The child considered this seriously. Ice cream, she whispered finally. Yes, very good. What else? Stories. Mama used to... Daddy reads them now. Lana's heart clenched, but she kept her voice light. Stories are best. One more? Butterflies. The yellow ones. Beautiful, Lana smiled. Now when you feel that big sad rock, you remember those three things. They help carry it, yes? Stella nodded slowly. Then, to Lana's surprise, the little girl stepped forward and wrapped her arms around Lana's neck. Lana froze for half a second before her arms came up automatically, holding the child close. Over Stella's head, her eyes met Adrian Lombardi's. He was standing now, staring at them with an expression she couldn't name. Relief, yes, gratitude, but something else too, something raw and desperate. Thank you, he said, his voice rough. Thank you. Lana gently disentangled herself and stood, helping Stella back to the booth. Is okay, she is good girl, just sad. Takes time. Adrian's gaze tracked her face, intense enough to make her breath catch. You have a gift with children. I have son, she said simply. 2 years. I understand. A son. He glanced at her left hand. Bare. Are you married? No, just me and Misha. Something shifted in his expression. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a business card. I need someone to watch Stella. My housekeeper is wonderful, but she's older. Stella needs what you just did. What are you making here? $10, $12 an hour. Minimum wage, Lana admitted, heat rising in her cheeks. Plus tips. I'll pay you $2,000 a week. Cash, no questions asked. His eyes held hers. I need someone who can reach my daughter. Someone she'll trust. $2,000. That was more than she made in 2 months at the restaurant. Her mind raced. This man was dangerous. The staff's fear made that clear. But $2,000 meant Misha could see a doctor when he got sick. Meant real food, not just rice and beans. Meant safety, maybe even a path to legitimate papers eventually. And that little girl needed her. Your son would come with you, Adrian added, as if reading her hesitation. I have a large home, a yard. He'd be safe there. Both of you would. Lana thought of her one-bedroom apartment, with the broken heating, the cockroaches, the neighbor who looked at her like prey. She thought of Misha's cough that wouldn't go away because she couldn't afford medicine. She thought of Stella's eyes, so broken and lost. When I start, she heard herself say. Adrian Lombardi's smile was slow, transforming his hard face into something almost beautiful. Tomorrow, 8 a.m. I'll text you the address. He held out his hand. After a moment, Lana took it. His palm was warm, calloused in unexpected places, and the handshake sent electricity up her arm that she absolutely could not afford to feel. Thank you, Svetlana, he said, reading her name tag. You have no idea what this means. But as she rode the bus home that night, counting the $100 bills he'd given her as an advance, Lana wondered what she'd just agreed to. Wondered what kind of man commanded that kind of fear and that kind of respect in equal measure. Wondered why her heart was racing at the memory of his grey-blue eyes. If you want to know what she discovered in Adrian Lombardi's world, keep watching. Adrian's home wasn't a house. It was an estate. Lana stood at the iron gates the next morning with Misha on her hip, staring up at the 3-story brick mansion, set back from the street by a circular driveway and manicured lawns. This was Brooklyn, but it might as well have been another planet from her cramped apartment in Brighton Beach. The gates opened automatically after she pressed the intercom. Adrian himself answered the door, dressed more casually than last night. Dark jeans, a black Henley that emphasized his broad shoulders. Without the suit jacket, she could see the edge of a tattoo creeping up the left side of his neck. Dot work, intricate and deliberate. Svetlana. His voice was warm. And this must be Misha. Her son buried his face in her shoulder, suddenly shy. Lana shifted his weight. He is, how you say, timid with strangers. Smart kid. Adrian stepped aside. Come in, I'll show you around. The interior took her breath away. Marble floors, high ceilings, artwork that probably cost more than she'd make in 10 years. But it wasn't cold. There were toys scattered in corners, a child's drawing taped to the refrigerator, family photos on the mantel, photos of a woman who had to be Stella's mother, dark-haired, beautiful, laughing in Adrian's arms. My wife Isabella, Adrian said quietly, noticing her gaze. She died 18 months ago, cancer. I am sorry, Lana said automatically, the English phrase she'd learned early. Stella doesn't understand why Mama isn't coming back. I've tried to explain, but... He trailed off, pain flickering across his face. She just knows her mother left, and she's terrified everyone else will too. Lana's throat tightened. She understood that fear intimately. It's hard for little ones. They love so big. Yeah. Adrian cleared his throat, his walls rebuilding. Rosa, my housekeeper, is upstairs with Stella. Let me introduce you. Rosa Delgado was a woman in her early 60s with kind eyes and graying hair pulled into a bun. She greeted Lana warmly, though her gaze was assessing. You're the woman from the restaurant. Adrian hasn't stopped talking about you. Adrian shot her a look that would have intimidated anyone else. Rosa just smiled. Stella was in a playroom that looked like a toy store had exploded. She was sitting on the floor, arranging stuffed animals in a careful line, her expression solemn. Stella, Adrian said gently. Look who's here. The little girl's head snapped up. Recognition flashed in her dark eyes, followed by something that might have been hope. The butterfly lady. Lana's heart melted. She set Misha down carefully. Hello, Stella. This is my son, Misha. He is 2. Think he can play with your toys? Stella studied Misha with a 4-year-old's gravity. He's little. Yes, very little, but gentle. See? Lana guided Misha toward a pile of soft blocks. He likes building. For the next hour, Lana let the children play, while she learned the routine from Rosa. Stella ate breakfast at 8, had a snack at 10, lunch at noon. She napped reluctantly around 1. She loved books and hated loud noises. She still cried every night for her mama. I've been with this family since Adrian was a boy, Rosa confided over coffee in the kitchen. His father was difficult, but Adrian, he tries so hard to be different. He adores that little girl. It breaks my heart watching him fail to reach her. He is not failing, Lana said firmly. Stella knows he loves her. The hurt is too big right now, but children, they heal. With time and safety. Rosa's eyes softened. You understand more than you should have to. Lana thought of Moscow, of Sergei's fists, of fleeing with an infant in the dead of winter. Yes, I understand. Adrian appeared in the doorway. I have to go to the office for a few hours. You'll be all right? Of course. Lana was already standing. We be fine. His gaze lingered on her face, searching for something. You need anything. Anything at all. Rosa has my number. And Svetlana. He stepped closer, his voice dropping. Thank you. For yesterday. For today. For giving my daughter a chance to smile again. He was too close. She could smell his cologne, see the faint scar on his jaw, feel the heat radiating from his body. Her pulse kicked up in a way that had nothing to do with fear. She is easy to love, Lana managed. You're Stella. Something flared in his eyes. Just Lana is fine. Svetlana is formal. Lana, she repeated, and he smiled. Lana, he echoed, and the way he said it, low, almost reverent, made her shiver. Then he was gone, and she could breathe again. The day passed in a blur of small miracles. Stella held Misha's hand when he stumbled. She shared her goldfish crackers at snack time. When it was story time, she actually laughed, a rusty, unpracticed sound that made Lana want to cry. You're magic, Rosa declared when the children were napping. I haven't heard her laugh in months. Not magic. Just, I see her. Children, they know when you really see them. That evening, when Adrian returned, he found all 3 of them in the backyard. Lana was pushing Stella on the swing while Misha chased a butterfly through the grass, shrieking with delight. Adrian stopped in the doorway, watching them. The late sun caught in Lana's blonde hair, turning it gold. Her smile was genuine, unguarded, as she listened to Stella chatter about the butterfly they'd seen. A yellow one, like she'd mentioned yesterday. She looked like she belonged there in his garden, making his daughter happy. The thought should have terrified him. Instead, it felt like relief. Higher, Stella demanded, and Lana obliged, her laughter mixing with the little girl's squeals. This, Adrian thought, this is what I've been missing. Not just help with Stella, but life, joy, the sound of happiness filling his too quiet house. He stepped outside. Room for one more. Stella's face lit up. Daddy, push me, push me! For the next 20 minutes they played together, all of them a makeshift family that shouldn't have worked, but somehow did. When Misha fell and scraped his knee, Adrian scooped him up without hesitation, murmuring soothing nonsense until the tears stopped. Lana watched him cradle her son, this dangerous man being so gentle, and something in her chest cracked open. Later, after she'd put both children down for dinner, spaghetti which they'd both devoured, Adrian found her in the kitchen, loading the dishwasher. "You don't have to do that," he said. "I don't mind. I like helping." He leaned against the counter, studying her. "How long have you been in the States?" 3 years. I came when Misha was baby. His father," she hesitated, "was not good man. I had to leave." "He hurt you?" "It wasn't a question." "Yes, but I got away. That is what matters." Adrian's jaw clenched. "If he ever finds you—" "He won't. Russia is far and he doesn't know where I am." She forced brightness into her voice. "Is past. I think only about future now. A future here, in New York? If I can stay. My papers, they are complicated. I want to do right way, but is expensive and hard." Adrian was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was measured. "I know people, immigration lawyers, good ones. If you're serious about staying, I cannot afford I'm offering to help, Lana. You're helping me with Stella. Let me help you with this." She stared at him, this man who commanded fear, with a look, who was offering her the one thing she needed most, a path to legitimate safety. "Why?" she whispered. "You don't know me." "I know enough." He stepped closer. "I know you stepped in when no one else would. I know my daughter smiled today for the first time in weeks. I know you're brave and kind and running from something that scared you enough to cross an ocean with an infant." His eyes burned into hers. "That's enough." The air between them crackled. Lana's breath caught as Adrian reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers grazed her cheek, and heat flooded her body. "This life I live," he said quietly. "It's not simple. I've done things I'm not proud of, things I can't undo, but I'm trying to be better. For Stella, for—" He trailed off, his gaze dropping to her lips. "For people who deserve better." "Adrian!" The doorbell rang, shattering the moment. Adrian stepped back, his expression shuddering. "That'll be Marco, my associate. I have business to discuss." Business. The reminder of who he was, what he did. Lana nodded, suddenly cold. "I should get Misha. We go home now." "Stay," Adrian said quickly. "Both of you. I have guest rooms." "No." She needed distance, needed to think. "Thank you, but no, we come back tomorrow, yes?" He looked like he wanted to argue, but finally nodded. "Tomorrow, 8 a.m. But as she gathered Misha and headed for the door, she heard voices from Adrian's office, angry voices, and one phrase clear and sharp. "Can't go soft now, not with the Volkov family circling." Volkov, her maiden name, common in Russia, probably a coincidence, but it sent ice through her veins. What kind of world had she just entered? What kind of man was Adrian Lombardi, really? But even as fear whispered warnings, she remembered his gentleness with the children, his offer to help with her papers, the way he'd looked at her like she was something precious. Lana fell asleep that night in her cramped apartment and dreamed of grey-blue eyes and a mansion that felt more like home than anywhere she'd been in 3 years. She was in trouble, she realized. Deep, dangerous trouble. And the worst part? She didn't want to run. 3 weeks passed in a rhythm that felt dangerously close to happiness. Stella bloomed like a flower in spring. She smiled freely now, chattered about butterflies and stories and her new friend Misha. She still cried for her mama, but the breakdowns were less frequent, less devastating. She slept through the night more often than not, and she'd started calling Lana, Lana Mama. The first time Lana had frozen, meeting Adrian's eyes across the breakfast table. He'd nodded slowly, permission and plea in one gesture. "It's okay. Please let her." So Lana had smiled and kissed Stella's forehead and pretended her heart wasn't breaking with how much she loved this little girl who wasn't hers. Misha thrived too. He followed Stella everywhere, his vocabulary exploding as he tried to keep up with his new big sister. The estate's backyard was paradise compared to their apartment building's concrete courtyard. He laughed more, ate better. The cough finally disappeared. And Adrian. Adrian was everywhere and nowhere. He left early most mornings, returned late most evenings. But when he was home, his attention was absolute. He read bedtime stories in different voices until both children shrieked with laughter. He taught Stella to ride her tricycle, running beside her with infinite patience. He let Misha help him work in his office, the toddler scribbling on paper, while Adrian handled business calls in Italian and English. And he watched Lana. She felt his gaze constantly, when she braided Stella's hair, when she sang Russian lullabies, when she moved through his house like she'd been there forever. The air between them stayed charged, electric, every accidental touch a spark. One evening, after the children were asleep, Lana found Adrian in the garden. He was nursing a glass of whiskey, staring at nothing. "Is okay if I join you?" she asked. He turned, and even in the darkness she saw his smile. Always. She sat on the bench beside him, leaving careful space between them. "Long day?" "Complicated day. Business issues." He took a drink. "Nothing for you to worry about." "Your business is dangerous, yes?" He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. "Yes," he said finally. "My family's been in certain circles for generations. I inherited responsibilities, obligations." He looked at her. "But I'm trying to change things, to build something legitimate for Stella. It takes time." "You are good father," Lana said softly. "She knows you love her. Because of you. You gave me back my daughter." "No, you never lost her. She was just hiding in the hurt. You gave her safety. I just showed her it's okay to come out again." Adrian set down his glass and shifted to face her. "How do you do that?" "Do what?" "See the best in everything. You've been through hell. I see it in your eyes sometimes when you think no one's watching, but you're still so full of hope, of kindness." "How?" Lana considered this. "Because is choice. Every day I choose. Bitterness or hope, fear or love. I choose love. For Misha. For me. Now." She met his eyes. "For Stella too. And me." His voice dropped. "What do you choose for me, Lana?" The question hung between them, heavy with meaning. Lana's pulse raced. She should pull back, should remember the fear in the restaurant staff's faces, should protect herself, but she was tired of fear. "I don't know yet," she whispered honestly. "I am scared of you sometimes, of what you do, who you are. But then I see you with Stella and I think, maybe dangerous man can also be good man. Maybe both true at same time." "I want to be good," Adrian said roughly. "For her. For—" He reached out, his hand hovering near her face. "Can I touch you?" Her breath caught. She should say no, should maintain boundaries, but she'd been starving for gentle touch, for someone to see her as a woman and not just a mother or a servant or something to use. "Yes," she breathed. His palm cupped her cheek, warm and calloused. His thumb traced her cheekbone, reverent. "You're so beautiful, so strong. I've never met anyone like you. Adrian, I know I shouldn't. I know this is complicated. You work for me, you're vulnerable, I should keep my distance." His eyes burned into hers. "But I can't stop thinking about you, about this." He leaned closer, his breath ghosting across her lips. "Tell me to stop, and I will. Tell me this is just me, and I'll never mention it again." Lana's hands came up to grip his shirt, not pushing away but pulling closer. "Is not just you." He kissed her like a drowning man finding air, soft at first, questioning, then deeper when she responded. His free hand slid into her hair, angling her head as he tasted her. Lana's world narrowed to sensation. His lips, his tongue, the scrape of stubble against her skin, the solid heat of his body. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adrian rested his forehead against hers. "Bože moi," Lana whispered. "My God." "Yeah." His laugh was shaky. "That." They stayed like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other, the night air cool around them. Finally, Adrian pulled back enough to meet her eyes. "I don't do this," he said quietly. "Since Isabella died, there's been no one. I didn't want anyone. But you," he touched her face again, "you made me want to live again, to feel again." "I am scared," Lana admitted. "Not of you, of this, of wanting something so much when everything can disappear so fast." "I know. But Lana," he kissed her forehead, tender and sweet. "I'm not going anywhere. Neither are you. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out together, okay?" She nodded, letting herself believe him, letting herself want this. They sat in the garden until midnight, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about growing up in this house, about his mother who died when he was 10, about taking over his father's empire at 25 and trying to steer it toward legitimate business. She told him about St. Petersburg, about her dreams of being a teacher, about the night she'd fled with Misha bundled in her coat. He'll never touch you again, Adrian said, his voice going cold. If he ever finds you— Shh! Lana pressed her fingers to his lips. Is past. This is now. Focus on now. So he did. He kissed her again, slower this time, savoring. And when they finally said goodnight, Lana floated to the guest room Adrian had insisted she start using. It's too far for you to commute every day, and Misha sleeps better here, and fell asleep, smiling. The next week was a dreamlike haze. Stolen kisses in the kitchen, hands brushing under the dinner table, long conversations after the children slept. They were building something, brick by brick, and it felt solid, real. Stella noticed, of course. Daddy likes Lana, Mama, she announced one morning. Adrian didn't deny it. Is that okay with you, Piccola? Stella considered this gravely. Will she stay? Forever? He looked at Lana, question in his eyes. She found herself nodding. Yes, Adrian told his daughter. If she'll have us, she'll stay forever. That evening, he officially asked. They were in his office. He'd called her in after putting Stella down, his expression serious. Marry me, he said without preamble. Lana's heart stopped. What? I know it's fast, I know we should wait, do this properly. But Lana, I don't want to wait, I want you here, legally, permanently. As my wife, Stella's mother, Misha's— He swallowed. Let me adopt him. Let me give you both my name, my protection, everything. Adrian, this is crazy. Is it? He pulled her close. Does this feel crazy? He kissed her, deep and sure. Does this? No. It felt like coming home. Like the safety she'd been chasing since childhood. Like love, huge and terrifying and absolutely right. Yes, she heard herself say. Yes, I will marry you. But slowly, okay? We take time. We do right for children. Whatever you want. As long as the answer is yes. They told the children the next morning. Stella shrieked with joy and threw herself at Lana, chattering about being flower girl. Misha didn't fully understand, but clapped his hands because everyone else was happy. Rosa cried and hugged them both. About damn time, she said. For 3 perfect days, Lana let herself believe in fairy tales. That she'd escaped her nightmare and found her happy ending. That love really could conquer all. Then, on a Thursday afternoon while the children napped, Adrian's phone rang. She watched his expression shudder as he listened, watched his jaw clench. Quando? When? Dannazione. Damnation. I'll handle it. He hung up and immediately dialed another number. Marco, we have a problem. The Russians are making a move. Yes, today. Get everyone to the safe house. His eyes found Lana's. Including my family. Fear iced her veins. What's happening? Business rivals. Old enemies resurfacing. It's nothing, he said, but his body language screamed danger. I need you and the children to go with Marco. Just for today, maybe tonight, Rosa too. Adrian, please. He gripped her shoulders. I can't focus on handling this if I'm worried about you. Please, Lana. Trust me. So she did. She let Marco, Adrian's right-hand man, scary but loyal, drive them to a nondescript house in Queens. She settled the children with Rosa, pretending everything was fine, even as her heart hammered. And she waited. Night fell. Adrian called once to say he was handling it, that they were safe, that he loved her. The words hit her like a punch, their first I love you, delivered over the phone during a crisis. Ja tebia lublю, she whispered back. I love you too. At midnight he finally came. He looked exhausted, a bruise blooming on his jaw but whole, alive. Is it over? She asked. For now. He pulled her into his arms, his grip almost painful. God, Lana, when I thought they might have gotten to you, we were safe. You kept us safe. He kissed her desperately and she kissed back just as fiercely, reassuring them both that they'd survived, that this fragile, perfect thing they were building hadn't shattered. But later, as they returned to the estate with the children still sleeping, Lana realized something. This would be her life now, living with the shadow of danger, always looking over her shoulder, teaching Stella and Misha to do the same. Was love worth that price? She looked at Adrian, at the way he checked every lock, every window, his body positioned between her and any potential threat, at the way he'd risked everything to protect them. Yes, she decided. This love was worth anything. Marry me tomorrow, Adrian said suddenly. Not a big wedding, just us, Rosa, the kids. I don't want to wait anymore. Tomorrow? She should argue. Should insist on doing things properly. But she'd lost too much in her life to caution, had learned the hard way that tomorrow was never guaranteed. Tomorrow, she agreed. They were married at noon the next day in Adrian's garden, with Stella as flower girl and Misha as ring bearer. Rosa officiated. She had a license from years ago, apparently. It was small and perfect and theirs. When Adrian kissed his bride, Stella cheered, Misha clapped, and Lana let herself believe, finally, that she was home. The first month of marriage was an adjustment. Lana officially moved into the master bedroom, though they'd been sleeping there for weeks already. Adrian's immigration lawyer fast-tracked her papers. Having proper documentation felt like a weight lifting. Misha started calling Adrian Papa, which made the big scary Mafia boss's eyes go suspiciously bright. And Stella, thriving and happy, started preschool at a private academy where she made friends and brought home artwork covered in butterflies. Everything was perfect, too perfect. Lana should have known it couldn't last. The call came on a Tuesday, while Adrian was at a business meeting across town. Stella and Misha were at Adrian's mother's house. His mother lived in Connecticut now, a sweet woman who'd welcomed Lana with open arms and insisted on weekly visits with her grandchildren. The children were safe. Away. That would matter soon. Marco burst into the kitchen where Lana was making dinner. "We need to go, now." "What's happening?" "The Kozlov family. They found out about Adrian's marriage. About you." His face was grim. "They're coming." Her blood turned to ice. Kozlov. One of the families Adrian had been working to distance himself from. One of his father's old alliances gone sour. "Why me?" "Your leverage. They think they can use you to force Adrian back into their operations." Marco was already pulling her toward the garage. "Adrian's on his way, but we need to move." They drove to a secure building in Manhattan, one of Adrian's legitimate properties, a high-rise with security and panic rooms. Marco positioned her in a 20th floor office and stationed guards outside. "Stay here, don't leave for any reason. Adrian will come for you." She nodded, throat tight. An hour passed, then 2. Finally, her phone rang. "Lana." Adrian's voice was strained. "Are you safe?" "Yes." "Marco brought me to your building." "Where are you?" "Handling it. This ends tonight." His voice went hard. "They thought they could threaten my wife. They thought wrong. Adrian, please be careful. I'm always careful, but Lana, I need you to know something." He paused. "If this goes wrong, if anything happens to me, everything goes to you. The legitimate businesses, the money, all of it. There's a will, documents with my lawyer. You and the children will be protected. Stop talking like this. I love you. Ya tebya lublю." He used her words, his accent terrible but sincere. "You saved me. You saved Stella. You gave me a reason to want to be better." "Then come back to me," she whispered. "Come back and be better with me." "I will, I promise." The line went dead. Lana paced the office, terror clawing at her throat. She should have seen this coming, should have known his world would reach for her eventually. 2 more hours crawled by. Then Marco's phone rang. She watched his expression shift from tense to relieved. "It's over," he said. "Adrian's on his way up." When the door opened and Adrian walked in, suit rumpled, knuckles bruised, but alive and whole, Lana launched herself at him. He caught her, arms banding around her like steel. "I'm okay," he murmured into her hair. "We're okay. They won't bother us again." "What did you do?" "What I had to." He pulled back to cup her face. "They came at my family, Lana. There are lines you don't cross. They learned that tonight." She didn't ask for details. Didn't want to know. Some things were better left in shadow. "Take me home," she said instead. "Take me to our children." They picked up Stella and Misha on the way, both kids sleepy and cranky. Once home, they put them to bed together, and then collapsed into their own bed, holding each other in the darkness. "I'm leaving it," Adrian said suddenly. "All of it. My father's old connections, the dangerous shit. I've been working toward it for years, but tonight made it clear. I can't do this halfway. Not with you. Not with them." "You mean it?" "I'm out, Lana, completely. I'll focus on the legitimate businesses. Real estate, restaurants, investments. It'll take time to fully extract myself, but I'm done. No more looking over our shoulders. No more fear." She turned in his arms, studying his face in the moonlight. "You would do that? Give up that power? For you? For Stella and Misha?" Without hesitation, he kissed her softly. "You're my power now. You're what makes me strong." Lana kissed him back, pouring everything into it. Love, trust, relief, hope. And when he made love to her that night, it felt like a promise. A new beginning. The next morning, Adrian made calls. Serious, final calls. She heard fragments. I'm out. Transfer my share. Family commitments. And slowly, over the following weeks, she watched him transform. No more late-night crisis meetings. No more tension in his shoulders. He smiled more, laughed easier. He was at dinner every night. He coached Stella's soccer team when she started. He taught Misha to ride a bike. He became the man she'd glimpsed under the dangerous exterior, the man he'd always wanted to be. One night, 3 months after the Kozlov incident, Adrian led her back to the garden where he'd first kissed her. I have something for you, he said. He pulled out a small box. Inside was a ring, not an engagement ring, but a family crest. His family's crest. In my family, this is tradition, he explained. When the head of the family is ready to step back, to pass the legacy to the next generation, he gives this to his wife. She becomes the keeper of the family's future. He slipped it onto her finger. I'm not that man anymore, Lana. The dangerous man. The feared man. I'm just Adrian now. Stella's father. Misha's papa. Your husband. And that's all I want to be. She threw her arms around his neck, crying happy tears. That's all I need you to be. Good. He grinned against her neck. Because I have one more question. She pulled back, eyebrows raised. How do you feel about giving Stella and Misha a little brother or sister? Lana's breath caught. Are you asking, I want more children with you. I want us to fill this house with love and laughter and chaos. I want everything, Lana, with you. She kissed him, tasting joy and future and forever. Yes, she whispered against his lips. Yes to everything. 1 year later, Lana woke to sunlight streaming through the bedroom windows and small hands patting her very pregnant belly. Baby awake? Stella whispered loudly. Shh, don't wake Mama yet. Adrian's voice came from the doorway, amused. She needs rest. I'm awake, Lana said, smiling as she struggled to sit up. 8 months pregnant was no joke. Good morning, Moya Dorogaya. My dear. Stella climbed onto the bed carefully, pressing her ear to Lana's stomach. At 5 years old, she was the perfect big sister. Excited, gentle, endlessly curious about the baby. I think it's a boy, Stella announced. I want a brother. Misha needs backup against all us girls. Adrian laughed, settling on the bed's edge. Backup, huh? Already planning sibling alliances? Duh, Daddy. Stella rolled her eyes in that way kids do when adults are being particularly dense. Misha toddled in moments later, still rumpled from sleep, and climbed into Adrian's lap. At 3, he was a perfect mix of Lana and his adopted father. Lana's blonde hair and blue eyes, but Adrian's smile and protective streak. Papa, story? Misha requested. After breakfast, buddy. Let's get Mama downstairs first. They moved through the morning routine with practiced ease. Adrian made pancakes, his one cooking skill, while Lana supervised the kids setting the table. Rosa joined them, as she did most mornings, regaling them with neighborhood gossip. This was their life now. Normal, domestic, beautifully mundane. After breakfast, Adrian headed to his office in the city, the legitimate one, where he oversaw his real estate portfolio and restaurant investments. He'd been completely clean for a year now, every old tie severed, every dangerous connection cut. It hadn't been easy. There'd been pushback, threats, attempts to pull him back in, but Adrian had stood firm, and eventually, the old world had let him go. Now he was building an empire his children could be proud of, one they could inherit without shame or danger. Lana spent the day with the kids, library story time, playground time, then naps. While they slept, she worked on her own project, online classes toward her teaching degree. Adrian had insisted on paying for it, had insisted she pursue her dreams now that their life was stable. That evening, after dinner and baths, they gathered in the living room for family movie night. Stella picked Moana for the 100th time, and they piled onto the massive couch together, kids sandwiched between parents, drowsy and content. Halfway through, Stella turned to look up at Lana. Lana, Mama. Yes, sweet girl. I'm happy. Are you happy? Lana's throat tightened. She caught Adrian's eyes over Stella's head, saw her own emotion reflected there. Yes, baby. I am very, very happy. Good. Stella snuggled closer. I want you to stay happy forever. I will, Lana promised. We all will. After the kids were asleep, Adrian found Lana in the nursery they'd prepared for the baby. She was folding tiny clothes, arranging them in drawers. Nesting, he teased gently. Maybe little bit. She smiled. I can't believe in 1 month we have another baby. Crazy, right? He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her, or as much as he could with her belly in the way. 5 years ago, I didn't think I'd ever be happy again. Thought I was destined to be this hollow shell, just going through motions for Stella's sake. And now? Now I'm so full of happiness it scares me sometimes, like it's too much, and I'll wake up to find it was all a dream. Lana turned in his arms. Is not dream. Is real. We are real. He kissed her. Slow and sweet. I love you. So damn much. Ja tebya lublю, she whispered back. 2 weeks later, Lana went into labor. Adrian was a wreck, pacing the hospital waiting room until Rosa smacked him and told him to get back in there with his wife. But when their son was born, healthy and screaming, he cried openly. What's his name? The nurse asked. Adrian looked at Lana. They'd discussed options but hadn't decided. Marco, Lana said softly, after the man who kept us safe. Marco Lombardi. Adrian nodded, too emotional to speak. He'd already called Marco to tell him. The man had actually choked up on the phone. They brought the baby home 3 days later. Stella and Misha were beside themselves with excitement, hovering over their new brother like tiny bodyguards. He's so small, Stella breathed. I'm going to protect him forever. Me too, Misha declared. No one hurts baby Marco. Adrian met Lana's eyes across the room and smiled, their children already fierce with love. That night, after everyone was settled, Adrian found Lana in the rocking chair, nursing Marco. The moonlight painted them silver. Hey, he whispered, not wanting to disturb the moment. Hey yourself, she smiled up at him. Can't sleep? Didn't want to. Wanted to watch you. Memorize this. He knelt beside the chair. Do you remember that night in the restaurant? When you walked up to Stella? Of course. I knew then. In that moment, watching you calm my daughter, I knew my life was about to change, that you were going to be everything. He touched Marco's tiny hand. I just didn't know how much everything would be. Good everything. The best everything. You gave me back my daughter, gave me a son, now 2 sons. You gave me a future I actually want to live. You made me a better man, Lana. The man I always wanted to be but couldn't find on my own. She reached out, cupping his face. You did that yourself. I just loved you while you did. Then keep loving me. For the next 60 years, through all the chaos and joy and mess. He grinned. Deal, deal. She laughed softly. Later, much later, Adrian stood in the doorway of Stella's room watching her sleep. She'd grown so much, from that broken, sobbing 4-year-old to this confident, happy 5-year-old. She had sleepovers now, best friends, dreams of becoming a veterinarian. She was whole again. They all were. He moved to Misha's room next. His son, because Misha was his, papers or no papers, slept sprawled across his bed, one leg hanging off, exactly like Adrian slept. It made him smile every time. Finally, he returned to the nursery, where Lana had just finished putting Marco down. They stood together, looking at their youngest son, and Adrian wrapped his arms around his wife. Thank you, he whispered. For what? For not running, for seeing me, for staying. He kissed her temple. For saying yes to a desperate man in a restaurant who offered you too much money and a dangerous life. Best decision I ever made, she murmured. Even when I was terrified, even when I should have run. Somehow I knew. Knew what? That you were worth the risk. That this, she gestured around them, encompassing their home, their children, their life, was on the other side of the fear. That love was waiting, if I was brave enough to reach for it. You're the bravest person I know, Lana Lombardi. And you are the best man I know, Adrian Lombardi. They stood there in the darkness, holding each other, listening to their baby breathe. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, their family slept safe and loved. And in that moment, everything was exactly as it should be. Perfect. Complete. Home. 4 years later, the backyard was chaos, the best kind of chaos. Stella, now 9, was pushing 7-year-old Misha on the tire swing while he shrieked with laughter. 4-year-old Marco was digging in the sandbox with his best friend from preschool. And 2-year-old Isabella, Bella they called her, was toddling after a butterfly with single-minded determination, her dark curls bouncing. Bella, stay where I can see you, Lana called from the porch, one hand on her barely showing belly. Number 5. Due in 6 months. They'd joked about starting a soccer team. Adrian came up behind her, sliding his arms around her waist. "You okay? Need to sit?" "I'm fine. Only 3 months along this time." She leaned back against him. "Remember when you asked me to marry you? You said you wanted to fill this house with love and laughter and chaos. Mission accomplished?" He murmured against her neck. Mission definitely accomplished. They watched their children play. This beautiful, blended, chaotic family they'd built from grief and fear and desperate hope. Stella had her mother's eyes, but Lana's smile now. Misha was all protective big brother energy, already talking about joining his dad's business someday. Marco was sweet and gentle, happiest with books and art. And Bella was pure joy, fearless and loving in equal measure. "Papa!" Bella called, having captured her butterfly. "Look!" Adrian jogged down to admire it, crouching to her level, and Lana's heart swelled watching them. This man who'd once been feared across New York now spent his days coaching soccer, attending dance recitals, and having tea parties with stuffed animals. He'd kept his promise. He'd walked away from that life completely, and never looked back. Rosa appeared with lemonade and cookies, tisking affectionately at the mess the kids were making. At 70 now, she showed no signs of slowing down, still the matriarch of their unconventional family. 30 years I've worked for the Lombardis," she said, settling beside Lana. "This is the happiest I've ever seen this house. You did that." "We did that," Lana corrected. "All of us together." That evening, after baths and stories and tucking in 4 exhausted children, Adrian and Lana stood in their bedroom, looking at the photos covering one wall. Their wedding day, each child's birth, birthdays, holidays, random Tuesdays, a whole life captured in moments. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is real," Lana admitted, "that we get to keep this. It's real." Adrian turned her to face him. "And we do get to keep it, because we chose it. Every day we choose this. Choose each other. Choose our family. Best choice I ever made." "Second best," he corrected with a grin. "First best was stepping up to that crying little girl in a restaurant." "No." Lana shook her head. "That little girl stepping into my life, that was fate. Choosing to stay, to build this. That was me choosing you." He kissed her then, soft and sure. The kiss of 2 people who'd fought for their happiness and won. Outside, the city lights glittered. Inside, their children dreamed safe dreams. And in that brownstone in Brooklyn where fear once lived, there was only love now. Endless, fierce, unbreakable love. The kind that made dangerous men soft and frightened women brave. The kind that built families from broken pieces. The kind that proved again and again that sometimes the biggest risks led to the greatest rewards. And as Lana fell asleep in her husband's arms, their future sleeping soundly down the hall, she thought of that terrified woman who'd stepped forward in a restaurant 4 years ago. "Thank you," she told her silently, "for being brave, for choosing hope. Look what we built. Look what love made possible.